Every year on the 28th of May, there is a global awareness campaign involving individuals, organizations, NGOs, development partners, and governments to highlight the importance of good menstrual hygiene management to break taboos surrounding menstruation and address the challenges and hardships many women and girls face during their menstruation.
Since 2014, World Menstrual Hygiene Day has been observed and its date bears some significance, with May being the 5th month of the year, which represents the average number of days a woman or girl spends menstruating each month, 5 days, and the number represents the average number of days in a menstrual cycle.
Access to menstrual hygiene materials are often limited by cost, availability, and social norms. With the yearly mission to create a period-friendly world together, the aim of Menstrual Hygiene Day is a world where everyone can safely access menstrual products, period education, menstrual health services, and period-friendly infrastructure that they need. For our guests from Teach for Nigeria, menstrual hygiene is also an education equity issue. Let's delve into the whys of this with the Chief Executive Officer, Teach for Nigeria, Molade Adeniyi, and Oyewumi Oyebanji, who is from the Teach for Nigeria 2023 cohort. We have these ladies joining us this morning on Panorama. Good morning, ladies. Yes, we can, but we're just going to try to fix the audio connection. I can hear you, but I'm not sure that the output is available for our listeners, so we're going to try to get that sorted. I think we've fixed that now. Good morning once again.
Good morning. Good morning.
Pleasure to have you on Panorama this morning on Menstrual Hygiene Day. All right, let's get started, and I think a good place to start would be on the perception of menstruation, right? Because I think that there will be people who will be wondering why we're even bringing this on radio, talking about this on a public platform to begin with, considering the attitudes around menstruation, the perception that it's dirty, it's unclean, it's something to be hidden, something to be secretive about. And so the idea that we are not just talking about it in private capacities, but that we're amplifying the message around menstrual hygiene on radio for the world to, hear about. Let's talk about that and how and why, that perception is wrong in the first place.
All right, thank you so much for having us this morning. It's always exciting to be here and join Splash FM. I really salute you for talking about the important things that not many people would want to talk about.
Ditto for you too.
Again, my name is Molade Adeniyi. I'm the CEO at Teach for Nigeria. I also want to extend our greetings to all of our Muslim brothers and sisters as they're celebrating Eid as well. So this topic, why is it important? As you rightly said, Menstrual Hygiene Day is marked globally on the 28th of May. And yes, it's something that we don't talk about openly, but it's something that we should talk about openly, especially for all the reasons that you have said. There's a lot of taboos around menstrual hygiene. It's meant to be something that we keep secret and we don't speak about the issues. But we have seen that there are many, many issues that affect education. It's linked to how girls in various parts of the country, and even and globally, actually access education. If you don't mind, let me just share a couple of data that might help us realize why it's important that we have this conversation. Only 2 out of 5 schools globally provide menstrual health education. This is according to the WHO and the UNICEF. And only 39% of schools globally provide any form of menstrual health education. We also have inadequate wash facilities, and wash stands for water, sanitation, and hygiene infrastructure in a lot of our Nigerian schools, especially our public schools, such as lack of private toilets, clean running water, safe waste disposal, and this forces millions of girls to miss up to 5 days of school every single month because of this basic infrastructure that isn't available. Therefore, it is extremely important that we talk about what this means for girls' education specifically, and what we need to do to ensure that, yes, it is something that should be private, and we're not here talking about menstrual hygiene as something we should talk around the coffee table, but we're asking what is the implication if we don't have certain things around menstrual hygiene that makes girls especially miss schools. So for us at Teach for Nigeria, that's why it's important. We champion education equity, and if girls are missing school or participating less because of menstruation-related barriers, then it becomes a learning issue. It becomes a dignity issue, and obviously a leadership issue as well.
Now, 2 out of 5 schools, only 2 out of 5 schools offering menstrual education to their girls. There's always been a conversation around when girls should be introduced to the subject of menstruation, when a girl should be told about it, what it means, how to safely care for herself in that period, proper menstrual hygiene practices, and of course the implications of a girl starting to menstruate. People have different theories on that. And now you're saying that only 2 out of 5 schools provide education around that. Now, what is your position on the subject of menstrual education for girls? At what age should it begin, and in what form should it come? Who should provide that education? Should it be the parents? The mother should initiate her daughter into what it means to start menstruation, or should it be institutions, groups like educational groups like schools, churches, and the like?
So that's a really important question. I have a teenage daughter, so I guess I can speak to what I have done. I'm not an expert, and I'm sure that there's probably experts that have ideas of when it should be, but I do believe it should start at home. The first place where a child receives education is always at home. The school is always complementary. The school should always be working collaboratively with parents to build on certain things, especially around issues around menstrual hygiene. So I think it should start at home. I think these days what we have seen, girls are starting their menstrual cycles much younger. The various factors for that, let's not even go into why that is. But we're seeing girls as young as 8, 9 who are already starting their menstrual cycles, when years ago it used to be closer to 11, closer to 12, etc. So I do believe that there are many degrees of conversations you can have at different times. So possibly from the age of 10, 11, we need to start having that conversation. You need to build a home where once a girl starts her menstrual cycle, she's actually comfortable enough to come and talk to you as her mother. Something is happening, I don't know what it is. And I think that from then on, you can build on what types and levels of conversation you need to have. And of course, in schools as well, now we have, with our fellows have girl clubs in most of the schools where they're in. So where we have girl clubs, we also have these sorts of conversations around menstruation, including what it is. It's not a taboo. You're not ill. Some people believe that some girls, because they have no education once they start their period, they believe that there's something wrong with them. So you need to let them know this is natural. This is part of you growing up in puberty. What do you do when it happens? How do you take care of yourself when it happens? So I think that it's a partnership, starting from home and then continuing in the school. I think I started the conversation with my daughter around the age of 10. And by the time she got her period, she was like, "Mom, remember we talked about something? I think this is what you mean." And then when she sees that, we then build on the conversation from there as well.
And do you think that helps destigmatize menstruation when you introduce it early enough so that your child isn't caught unawares?
Yes, certainly. I do think that it's important to also consider the maturity of the child, of course, but I do think it helps to destigmatize it. Many of us growing up weren't told anything about it until it just came. And if you didn't have a parent that you could comfortably go speak to, you're confused, you don't know what's going on. At least if you have the basic knowledge, you know, okay, I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm not about to die. We've heard children say that, I think I'm about to die because I feel like, well, I'm going to bleed to death, something like that. So I do think having the conversation early enough helps remove the stigma. And interestingly, I do think it's important to also have some level of conversation with the boys. How you have it will be different from the girls, but you also, when boys don't also understand the issues around menstruation and menstrual cycles, they make fun of the girls. But when they understand, then they grow empathy. I mean, I have some stories that I'll share, but I'll probably share that later on if time permits. But you know, the boys become more empathetic, they become aware, and rather than making fun of the girls, they're actually supporting the girls to help them through that period. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for that, because I was about asking as regards how to make boys allies when it comes to this conversation. But many people still see this menstruation as a girl's problem rather than a societal one. So why do you believe this kind of conversation is needed in national development and also in human dignity? Especially
from the perspective of the theme, Together for a Period-Friendly World.
Yeah, so I mean, thank you very much for that question. So when we talk about, I love this game when we say together, period-friendly world, where it means we're all together. It doesn't talk about just women having this conversation. It talks about everybody having this conversation. Before I answer this question, though, I think it's important for me to mention that Nigeria has adopted its first national policy on menstrual health and hygiene management, aimed at improving health, dignity, and opportunities for women and girls. And this policy creates an important opportunity for implementation. So we need to, Nigeria is already moving in that direction. The policy links menstrual hygiene to also broader education outcomes as well. So it talks about providing products, safe toilets, clean water, privacy information, etc. So we are moving in the right direction. But when I think about this theme, period-friendly world, what it really suggests to me is a world where every single person, not just girls, have accurate information about what menstrual hygiene and menstrual health means. Everybody, boys, girls, schools, parents, the public, etc., government, and how we are working together to ensure that girls then have access to the support they need: clean and private toilets, clean running water, emergency menstrual products, and teachers also who can respond with care. So together means every single person. I mean, with this campaign, you will see what do we need to be telling boys? What do we need to be telling girls? What do we need to be telling teachers? And I'll tell the story I was going to tell now. So the story was told of a classroom teacher who was teaching in the classroom, standing in front of the classroom, teaching and writing on the board. The next thing, a young boy, she had a mixed class, possibly about primary school or so, maybe about 8 years, 9 years. The next thing, a young boy walked up to her in the classroom and handed her his cardigan, had taken off his school cardigan, and he said to her, "Ma, please put this around your waist." The teacher didn't understand what was going on. But she said, "Ma, please take this around your waist." And after the class, she realized that she had been on her period and had a stain. The boy had identified and noticed that she was stained and had handed her his cardigan to help her. And that's where dignity comes from. That boy could have been laughing at her. They could have been making fun of her, but he understood what was going on, respected the teacher enough, and provided some dignity. Imagine what that boy would do for his sisters and girls everywhere. That exactly is what we mean when we talk about a period-friendly world. Yeah.
Okay, now you mentioned something as regards the national policy on menstrual health and hygiene management, but also there is another policy on the removal of VAT on locally manufactured sanitary product. Has that actually changed what girls pay when it comes to accessing this product when to use during menstruation?
So I think that is a step in the right direction. How pervasive it is yet, I'm not 100% sure. But I do think that, I mean, if I give some examples of some of what our fellows do in some of our classrooms through the Viva Change project, they actually empower girls to make reusable pads as well. Because yes, the VAT is taking off, but there are some communities where affordability still becomes an issue. So girls, their parents, their families from low-income, underserved communities where many of our fellows serve are unable to still afford sanitary pads. So we've had instances where girls have been empowered to actually make reusable sanitary pads that they can make and use over and over again. That is more sustainable, that is more affordable, it empowers them. And, through that you can also empower these girls to know what to do, make something with their hands, feel proud of what they need to do. And I think that removing the VAT is the first step. But I think the next step should be how do we make available free menstrual hygiene products completely? Because there are people who really cannot afford to still buy despite the VAT being taken off.
Well, that's a good point you've raised there, because on average, every girl and woman will spend no less than 1,000 naira monthly on menstrual products on average. Some people will spend more than that depending on the duration of their menstruation and what kind of products they use, but on average, yes. So as you said, the goal should be elimination, so that those who cannot afford it are able to get the products for free. But now let's bring in our second guest into the conversation. Oyewumi Oyebanji. She is an alumnus of Teach for Nigeria from the 2023 cohort, and she's also a participant of Let Girls Thrive, which is an initiative of Teach for Nigeria. So let's go back to what we said in our opening, which is that menstruation is also about education equity. So it's not just period equity, but it's also about education equity. Now you are, because of your work with Teach for Nigeria as an alumnus, you've interfaced with these girls. So tell us about what you've noticed, what maybe stood out for you in terms of girls' experiences with menstruation, especially in these low-income communities where Teach for Nigeria largely operates.
Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I am Oyewumi Oyebanji, a Teach for Nigeria alumni and a Let the Guest Thrive fellow with Teach for Nigeria,
All right.
and which was during my fellowship 2023 to 2025.
All right.
I did my Teach for Nigeria fellowship at
Hello. All right, must be those spotty network issues. Okay, well, pending when we're able to get Oyewumi back on the line.
Yes, from Paul.
Oyewumi, we lost you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
We stopped hearing you for about 20
I can hear you.
seconds. So if you can recap what you said.
Okay. I said I am an alumni of Teach for Nigeria and the Let the Guest Thrive fellow of the fellowship of Teach for Nigeria. I did my Teach for Nigeria at United Native Africa High School, Igbogilayewa, Ogun State, Nigeria, which gave me the opportunity to stage and live at Igbogila community for 2 years, through which I was able to gain first-hand experience of what the vulnerable, underserved, less privileged, local, and guests from poor homes and poor backgrounds faces during their monthly menstrual period, which is lack of access to hygienic sanitary pads, which makes the school girls stay out of school. They are out of school during their menstrual period as a result of lack of money to buy sanitary pads, which leads to wide gap between the girls from poor homes and the ones from advantage of privileged homes, which is in accordance with UNICEF, that says that only about 36% of girls in Nigeria use hygienic menstrual materials during their periods, which accounts that the remaining 64% of school girls does not have access to menstrual pads, which is saddening and endemic to the growth and development of the nation. A 2020 report by WaterAid in Nigeria found that 1 in 5 Nigerian girls misses school during their period, not because they are ill, but because of stigma, lack of sanitary pads, and fear of embarrassment of being stained in school, which then stayed at home, amounting to weeks of missed learning, widening the gender education gap, and affecting long-term career opportunities for the girls, bringing about gender inequality in education. And as a Teach for Nigeria alumni, I stood up because they empowered me to become a Let the Girls Thrive ambassador, and I look into the community, what the girls are facing, and within the school community, the girls are facing lack of access to sanitary pads. And there was a scenario in which they know that I'm a Let the Girls Thrive ambassador within the school. So anytime the girls start their menstruation during the school hours, they will bring them to me and I'll give them pads, because I do have partners, organizations giving me pads, like Period Talk Bossede, the program manager of Teach for Nigeria. She gave donated 150 pads to my initiative, and Muyoluwa, a UK Nigerian nurse, who gave me pads also. So I will give the girls pads for them to stay in school. And some of them, they start their menstruation at home, they will stay at home and will not be able to come to school. And this always brings about low performance, they becoming average in their academic outcomes within the educational space, and which is the serious endemic problem in the educational space, and which the Teach for Nigeria is looking into through their Let the Girls Thrive ambassador, through their Let the Girls Thrive fellow, rather. Sorry.
All right. That's amazing. Well, I would want to ask you this question. You mentioned that you worked in an underserved community here in Ogun State, and also you noticed one of this issue, which is lack of access to sanitary pads. And then when these girls want to are actually on the menstrual period, you give them sanitary pads which we gotten from your partners. But also lack of access to sanitary pad is not an issue. It's not only the issue in these underserved communities. We have lack of access to water and hygienic environment. So how were you able to solve this issue?
Okay, thank you so much for this question. During my stay at Google for 2 years, the menstrual hygiene or the menstrual inadequacy is not the only problem. Also, we have lack of access to quality and clean water, whereas in which makes the guests to stay at home and to look content during their menstrual period. And not only during their menstrual period, during the school hours, you see them, because they do not take their baths daily, because there is lack of access of quality water, and there is lack of soap too, because of to their poor backgrounds. So I stood up and come into this because my first degree equipped me with vocational skills. So I taught them how to make soap, and we distributed soap to the guests. We give out soap to the guests in order to make them to look clean. So I taught them how to make soap, and the water, we were able to meet with the relevant stakeholders within the community, from my school, the principal, the management of the school, the vice principal, administration, and also the other teachers and community leaders. We meet with them in order to provide us with quality water, and in which they do. There was a borehole, the dog, and this helped the guests in order to enhance their good health and well-being, and during their menstrual periods and every day of their lives. And this has always been what they have been enjoying, even after my leaving, after I left them close to a year ago. And I've been getting feedback from the teachers I left here, that I have built positive relationship is that how are the girls faring, and they say they are faring well. They have they cannot produce out their own reusable parts, because I taught them how to make their parts, and also the water is enhancing and improving their health, and also they can be able to produce their soap. Even if one finishes, they can come together to make their own soap by themselves.
All right, we're in conversation with the Chief Executive Officer, Teach for Nigeria, Molade Adeniyi, as well as an alumnus from Teach for Nigeria's 2023 cohort and a participant of Let Girls Thrive, which is a program for within Teach for Nigeria, Oyewumi Oyebanji. And you can join our conversation by sending a message on WhatsApp to 0705 050 1067. You can comment on Facebook, Splash FM 106.7, or you can tweet at Splash FM 1067, hashtag Panorama on Splash. Today is World Menstrual Hygiene Day, and we've already covered so much ground and talked about why it's important for everyone to be a participant in conversations around menstrual hygiene, and why it's a matter of education equity as well, and it's not just limited to a public health issue. Now, Molade, we already have a question or a comment from Budon on WhatsApp, who says, I want to believe today's subject of discourse is centering the female gender, which is no problem. And I know you already did talk about this and how, everyone should be involved on this conversation, but you still see this kind of pervasive attitude about menstruation being a purely female matter, even though you've, connected it to education equity, talking about how girls often miss schools, how girls sometimes are subject to bullying, mocking, teasing by boys, and even how it's also a matter of gender equity as well. But perhaps it bears reiterating, because just like Budon, there may be people who would be turned off by this conversation, either because they believe it doesn't concern them because they don't have the biological equipment to menstruate, or because of the taboo around menstruation. So let's cover this again and address what Budon said.
So if we believe as a people that every single child, every single Nigerian child, regardless of gender, regardless of where they're from.
Oh no, don't know what happened there, but we're going to get back into conversation with our guests so that we can continue to, address the issue of so that we can continue to address the issue of period poverty, really, which is when girls, do not have access to menstrual products or the right environment in which to be able to safely
I think I'm back now.
apply it. Yes, you are. Sorry about that interruption. Yes, can you hear me? Molade, I can hear you. I hope you can hear me too. Molade, if you can hear me, please signify. Alright, goodness, I don't know what's going on, but we can hear her, but it looks like she cannot hear us. So let's see what needs to be done so that we can continue the conversation. But in the meantime, you can send your messages to WhatsApp. WhatsApp is 0705 050 1067. The theme for this year and the theme for past years has been Together for a Period Friendly World, and it is such an apt theme because together implies that it is the work of everyone that will create a period friendly world, so that girls will not have to miss school days, so that period conversations will not be seen as a solely girls and women matter. Okay.
Well, welcome back. We're still on Panorama on Splash 106.7 FM, the integrity station, and we're trying to reconnect back with our guests on the program. We've been discussing about the World Menstrual Hygiene Day and how it is important in national development, and also the conversation being an important one, that it centers around human dignity, it centers around educational equity, it centers around, care for everyone, how we can be allies as also both male and female when it comes into caring for others. This is a human life. This is not something that needs to be used to shame someone, but something that needs care, empathy, because these the female gender, I don't use these genders, but then the female gender, those who actually require the right attention when it comes to access to quality care, quality hygiene product, access to what they need to do when it comes into their monthly flow, is something that needs the right attention. Of course, we've talked about Nigeria having a policy in place. It's called a national policy on menstrual health and hygiene management, and the policy also that VAT will be removed from sanitary products, which we've applauded.
I don't think that VAT being removed on sanitary products, I don't think it's new. It's one of the reasons why, menstrual products are relatively affordable. Relatively.
It's not new, but then it's not that
the policy is new. Yes, the policy is definitely new. I mean, the national policy on menstrual health and hygiene management. I was just speaking specifically about that VAT. No VAT on menstrual products.
Well, it's a good one.
It is a good one, and this national policy on menstrual health and hygiene management is Nigeria's first unified framework that aims to end period poverty and stigma. Let's try again with our guests and see if they can hear us now. Molade, I hope you can hear me now. Molade, if you can hear me, let's see if we can find an alternative way of continuing this conversation, because presumably you cannot hear me because I can see you on the call, but obviously there's no activity from your end. But let's open phone lines so that you, our listener, can hear us and you can join in on the conversation. So if you would like to call in and share your views on the subject of menstrual hygiene, period poverty. So basically, period poverty is when girls and women do not have access to period products, and they also do not have access to the kind of menstrual infrastructure that allows them to safely administer those period products. So you can call us and talk about that. You can talk about your experiences regarding it in whatever capacity, and you can basically just share your views or ask questions while we work to get our guests back on the line. So the phone line is open, 0817-444-1067, 0817-444-1067. All right, let's see if our guests can hear now.
I can hear you.
Okay, Molade. I think the Bluetooth connection was an issue, so I had to switch to a different type of connection. Okay. So we've lost a lot of time trying to fix that. So let's just quickly talk about Teach for Nigeria's work. Oh, you were talking about why boys and men should be a part of this conversation as well in light of Budon's remarks. So let's quickly have your answer on that, and then we can now talk about how Teach for Nigeria and its program Let Girls Thrive is helping to address issues surrounding period poverty and how it affects education equity.
Okay, I'll make it very brief because of the time lost. Technology.
Yes.
Okay.
It has its drawbacks.
I would say that if we all believe that every single Nigerian child, regardless of their gender, regardless of where they live, regardless of the community they grow up, regardless of the family that they come from, should have access to quality education. if we all believe that to be true, then issues like this is all of our business. When we realize that the lack of the awareness, the lack of the education, the lack of the products means that girls are, missing school, means that girls are not getting this access that they need, and it means girls are not attaining an excellent education. That for us is where we talk about education equity, because that is education inequity, and therefore all of us, it becomes all of our problems. When boys understand, when men understand the issues, it means that they're more supportive. We haven't even talked about various things around the consequences of some menstrual cycles, where girls feel a little bit of discomfort and pain, and therefore a male teacher understanding, let me give an example of a male PE teacher understanding that, okay, this girl is on her menstrual cycle right now. There are certain things that she cannot do, not because she's not capable, but because at this time she's unable to do certain sporting activities, and he leads that with empathy rather than forcing her or making her feel bad or announcing it to the whole world. That is where we talk about fairness and dignity, etc. And that's why it's important for everyone to be educated. So the fact that I, as a male, I'm not menstruating does not mean I shouldn't empower myself with the knowledge of what it means and how I can support my students and learners better,
right,
as a male teacher.
And now, what Teach for Nigeria and Let Girls Thrive do, to close the gap, really, as regarding menstrual hygiene and how it intersects with education?
Yeah. So at Teach for Nigeria, we recruit and place outstanding graduates in schools, in public schools, working with state governments. We currently have over 800 fellows placed across Ogun State and Lagos State in both primary and in secondary schools, and we're there supporting the work that the state governments are already doing to improve both education and non-educational outcomes. But as our fellows are placed in the classrooms, we realize that there are all other issues like this menstrual hygiene issues that are affecting education, and therefore a few years ago we started our Let Girls Thrive initiative. And our Let Girls Thrive initiative strengthens the capacity of our fellows to support girls' education across various levers. And one of the areas in which they focus on is in menstrual hygiene. Now, I'd like to mention that our Let Girls Thrive fellows are not just girls, are not just female. We also have male Let Girls Thrive fellows, because we do believe that there's also contributions that they can have. So with this Let Girls Thrive fellows, we have fellows who have set up clubs, like I mentioned earlier. They set up clubs where there's initiatives like reusable pads being made, education of and awareness for both boys and girls, projects that help ensure that the school has running water, clean water, private toilets, proper waste disposal, as well of used sanitary pads, and etc. So for us, we believe that there's also sensitization. So sensitization of parents. So there's some parents that won't even send their girls to school when they have when they're on their menstrual cycle. So there's education that needs to happen there to let them know it's not a taboo. They don't need to separate the girls during this time, but there are ways that they can support them as well. So this is some of the work that we do, and we do this collaboratively with the school teachers, with the school principals, with the heads of schools, and also with government partners as well. We are now in our 4th year of this Let Girls Thrive Fellowship, and it's thriving. We're seeing, girls returning to school. We're seeing less missed days, and therefore we're seeing both the academic and non-academic outcomes of girls improving as a result of this project.
Okay, we have a few people who are keen to join the conversation. We've been getting calls, so let's open the phone lines and have our listeners participate on this topic of Menstrual Hygiene Day. 0817-444-1067, that is the number to call to join the conversation yourself, or you can drop a message for us via WhatsApp. WhatsApp is 0705 050 1067. Good morning. Talk to us.
Good morning, ma.
Good morning.
Yeah, my name is Adeyemi Miriam.
Welcome.
Adeyemi Miriam, welcome to Panorama. Where are you calling us from?
I'm calling from Abeokuta.
Okay, let's have your take.
Yeah, thank you very much for this program. I'm a student of Baptist Girls College, Java. And I want to say that I don't know what your program is about, but I am hearing that you are talking of girls' menstrual hygiene. In my school, we don't have a very good toilet facilities for the girls. So I feel that at this age, when girls are menstruating, and I feel they need privacy, they need dignity, they need hygiene. So if your if your company is about encouraging girls to be neat with their menstrual cycle, I feel our school should be provided with a very good toilet facilities, because we are using pit latrine, and I feel at this age it is not acceptable. So it makes us to run away from school during our menstrual period because it is not neat enough, and it exposes us to the risk of infection and some other things. That is what I feel I want to say, Ma. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miriam, for calling us and sharing about this important issue that girls at Baptist High School, Idiaba, I believe. You said it's Baptist High School, Idiaba.
Baptist Girls College.
Baptist Girls College at Idiaba. Thank you for sharing what the girls there face. And our guests can hear, they heard your contribution, at least they heard most of it. And it's part of what we are discussing, how menstrual hygiene is not just about access to sanitary products. It's also about access to safe and clean and hygienic environments that allows girls to be able to use those menstrual products, in a safe and hygienic manner. But Malade, you heard most of Miriam's submission, I take it?
Yeah, I heard most of it, and I think that this is where the advocacy and the national policy on menstrual health that I was speaking to earlier also comes in. And part of what is in that policy is that the government will provide adequate wash facilities in schools, all schools. I mean, really, everybody, whether you're a boy or a girl, you deserve to have clean wash facilities. So this is what we need to continue to advocate for. Like I said, we are a not-for-profit organization. Our work is not primarily, we shouldn't really be focusing on mental hygiene if that infrastructure is there. We are there, we place teachers and fellows in the classrooms to help, support educational learning and outcomes. But there's all of these other things that we have seen that continue to affect the outcomes that we want to see. So we continue to advocate, we continue to ask on partners to come in and support this work and help support the building of clean toilet facilities in our schools. But the caller is right. And she's talking from a first-hand experience of why, I'm just going to miss school because the school facilities are horrible.
She said they have a pit latrine in the school instead of a functional toilet.
This is 2026.
Right. And I imagine that is the same situation that many girls in underserved communities face in their schools. But let's take some more calls, perhaps maybe one more call. We have some messages on WhatsApp that we'll get to, but if you want to call in, you can call in to 0817 444 1067 0817 444 1067. I certainly hope that the government will be quick to address the situation of Baptist Girls College Idiaba and provide them with working toilets. But I'm glad that you said other people should come on board as well, because it is definitely the duty of government to provide the right infrastructure in schools, especially public schools. But we've seen cases where you have school alumni or philanthropists or just basically organizations donate to these schools. They see a need and then they donate to it. So maybe that's something else that could fill in the gap while government, attempts to do the rest. But we have some messages on WhatsApp. This one is from, let me see, it's from Sinoja from Abeokuta. And Sinoja says, what good insight from the Teach for Nigeria fellows. The Ogun State government should be able to retain these fellows of Teach for Nigeria after the fellowship, just like Lagos State government retains them as permanent teachers in their schools due to their initiatives and implementations towards education inequality. Abayomi says, Teach for Nigeria is obviously doing a great job. Keep it up. Have you ever encountered issues of parents who refused their girls the use of menstrual pads from strangers for whatever reason? A donor to a school in a rural area once complained about this rejection. Abayomi also says, keep up the education. Good question. Budon says, want to believe that regarding the agenda, which they know that since it comes once in a month, either the girl child or the parents of the girl ought to make adequate provisions for the arrival of the period. Well, that is true, but some people are financially incapacitated, so it's not that they don't want to, it's that they cannot afford to. But back to Abayomi's question, Molade, or maybe Oyewumi would be in the best position to address this. Have you encountered any case of, because we're talking about attitudes, stigmas, cultures that prevent, that lead to period poverty. So have there been cases where, kind-hearted people are donating period products and you have the parents rejecting it from because they don't believe in collecting such intimate items from strangers or something of that nature?
Oyemi, would you like to take a pass at this question?
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Through my work by distributing reusable pads and pads, general pads to gays in underserved community, I've never experienced such, because most of the gays that we are dealing with are from poor homes. They are underprivileged. They are not from privileged homes, so they are disadvantaged in such area, and they lack period pads. So while giving them, they are always happy. They will embrace you. They will. The next day they will come to your table to say thank you, ma, for what you did yesterday. So they always collect it, and I've never encountered any students rejecting such.
Okay.
Thank you. Let me add to that and say that I think that there will be a reason for that with our fellowship program. Remember that our fellows are in the schools already. They are trusted by the parents.
So they built a relationship with the...
Exactly. And we do a lot with parental engagement as well. But I have heard about this happening where someone who the parent is random just turns up and wants to give away sanitary pads. We are a very, there's a lot of myths in our culture. Let's not downplay that. And people, I have heard things like, oh, they want to steal my child's destiny by giving her this thing. So a lot of it is, I would say that anyone who wants to do that, there are channels that you can go through from the government, from even with organizations like ours, where we do some due diligence, some level of vetting, and you can come through those channels to support the girls. Because sometimes going straight on, you may find some of these issues that you are sort of describing. So yes, it does exist, and we can't downplay our culture when it comes to things like that.
All right. Well, it sounds like a very workable solution. Thank you to our guests this morning. We have had Molade Adeniyi, Chief Executive Officer, CEO, Teach for Nigeria, as well as Oyewumi Oyebanji, an alumnus of Teach for Nigeria from the 2023 cohort. Ladies, thank you for joining our conversation about menstrual hygiene today.
Thank you for having us.